Well, hello there. Welcome back to the channel. My name is James, and here at 20th and 21st Movies, we are about all things cinema. Well, I want to take a few minutes today to share with you my thoughts on a film that I have recently watched. This is a film that's been in my backlog for some time, and this is episode 2 of Backlog Treasures. So in this series of videos that I've recently started, what I'm going to do is just share with you a few thoughts that I have about a title that's been in my backlog for a while. So as physical media collectors, many times we get into the habit, or at least I get into a habit, and I'm sure some may share this experience as well, where you get so excited about upcoming physical media releases. And so we get excited about what's coming and we pick up these titles, and in many cases I will watch these films as soon as I get them, and I usually do for most of what I pick up. But in some cases there are some titles that end up in my backlog and I don't get to them for some time, maybe a year or two or even longer. And this film that I'm going to talk about today falls in the category of a film that I believe I picked up a couple years ago on Blu-ray, but never got around to watching it in its entirety. And I recently have, and that film is, I believe, the 2016 film Hell or High Water. This is the film starring Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, and Ben Foster. And this is a film that is directed, I'm trying to remember the name of the director of this film, I apologize. The name of the director of this film is David MacKenzie, so excuse me. So David MacKenzie directed this film from 2016. And the best way I can describe this film is this film really reminds me of and gives me a vibe of one of my favorite films of all time, No Country for Old Men, the 2007 Coen brothers film that is basically a neo-Western that takes place in Texas. This film is in that same genre. So it's very similar to No Country for Old Men. It's a different film, but it's that same neo-Western vibe, and that's definitely part of what I can appreciate about this film. Now, I will say right off the bat that what I don't want to get into and what I hope people can avoid is making comparisons of this movie to No Country for Old Men, or trying to say, well, which is better? Is this as good as No Country for Old Men? I don't really want to go down that path, because I love No Country for Old Men. It's one of my favorite films of all time. And as I look at this picture, I don't want to look at this film necessarily in light of that. I'll just say that this film is in that same genre of type of films. It's a film that takes place in Texas. It's a neo-Western. And I would say on its own merit, this is a really, really good film. It's basically about, you have Chris Pine and Ben Foster. They are brothers in this movie. Of course, Chris Pine's character is a divorced father of 2. And his brother and him are basically involved in robbing banks to raise money to save their family farm, so that Chris Pine can put his kids in a better situation for their future. So the land that they inherited from their mother is deeply in debt to the bank, and so they are in the process of robbing that same bank to get the money to pay off the loans, so that they can free up Chris Pine's children for a better future. That land has oil on it, and it's gonna really set them up for a great future. All right, so Chris Pine and Ben Foster, they play the roles of Toby Howard and Tanner Howard. They are brothers. They're going around Western Texas, robbing banks, and that eventually gets the attention of Marshal Marcus Hamilton, who's played by Jeff Bridges in this film. He and his partner, played by a really interesting actor named Gil Birmingham. He plays Alberto Parker. So he and Jeff Bridges' character are lawmen, and they are trying to investigate and figure out who's robbing these banks. And that's part of the cat and mouse game that's played out in Hell or High Water. Will these brothers successfully rob all these banks, pay off the property from their mother so that their family can have a better future? And will these lawmen stop them before any of that happens? And will they pay the consequences? All of that's part of the drama that is played out in Hell or High Water. It's a great cat and mouse game, part of a neo-Western that takes place in Western Texas. very similar to the vibe of No Country for Old Men. And so I can definitely appreciate this movie on that basis. It's a really, really interesting film that I really enjoyed. And it's directed by David MacKenzie. I'm not familiar with David MacKenzie's work, but I think he did an absolutely phenomenal job directing this film. And I love the performances of Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, Ben Foster, Gil Birmingham, really the entire cast. You really get a good Texas vibe in this film. I think it's very well written, and I can definitely appreciate the writing that went in this film. I believe the writer of this film is the same writer for Sicario. So some really good dialogue in this film that I could appreciate, and nice one-liners that gives you that good Texas vibe. So, you know, this was a really good ride of a film. It's a film that I definitely give a double thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. And it's been sitting on my backlog for some time and just haven't seen it. I know that ever since this Blu-ray edition, a 4K of this has come out as well. I've chosen not to upgrade it at this time because I hadn't even seen the movie yet. Now that I've seen it, might give it some thought of a potential 4K upgrade. But let me know in the comments below if you have the 4K Ultra HD of Hell or High Water. Is that a worthy upgrade in your mind? Let me know that in the comments below. But also let me know in the comments what you think about this film. I personally enjoyed it. This is a film that sat on my backlog for a couple years, never got around to it, made a commitment to get around to some of these titles that have been kind of piling up to, on me in my backlog. So I'm so glad that I had a chance to finally check this one out. This is Hell or High Water, the 2016 film from director David MacKenzie, starring Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, and Ben Foster. And I'm glad I had a chance to finally check this one out. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Hell or High Water? Let me know if you would recommend this movie as well. And also let me know what other films from David MacKenzie you have seen that you would recommend. Let me know that in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at the movies. Peace.